So we'll get to introductions and all that kind of shit. I sometimes I hear podcasts, you know, and like it just starts off with the introductions and then it just feels so fucking stiff. You know what I mean? And we just slept in a tent together for a week, so it's like we don't need any kind of stiff in the way pretense bullshit. So, so we'll get to who you are and why we're talking. But where I wanted to start is you said you said the same thing to me like a handful of times now. And the first time we ever talked on the phone before we started training together, you said it when we were hunting in Utah, and a couple other times during conversations. You said to me that sheep hunting saved your life or some variation of that. And so I just want to jump right in and start talking about that. And maybe you can tell a little bit of that story and all of that and see where we go from there, man.
Yeah. And I mean to say that because I got to a point in life where I was so overweight that, you know, it almost kind of seemed impossible turning it around. And I use sheep hunting as my platform to give myself that intrinsic motivation to go out and accomplish something. So gosh, I guess, all this really happened in 2020. I was supposed to go on a Dall sheep hunt. And thank God COVID happened because I didn't take that really seriously and didn't train. And so Trey Sparing, Neil and Brownlee, who well as well as me, call it a cancellation moose hunt because our Dall sheep hunt got canceled due to COVID. And I went on that moose hunt and was successful. And one of the things I asked Trey was like, "Hey man, like, what do I need to book now that I'm gonna never be able to book in the future?" From a cost perspective, and he told me to book stone sheep, and gosh, what great advice that was. And so I ended up hunting stone sheep in 2022, but started preparing for that hunt in 2021 and really, the fall of 2021. And went from 250 pounds down to about 188, 190 pounds. Added 15 pounds of muscle and lost just an enormous amount of fat. And that's why I say sheep hunting changed my life. It saved me because I was on a trajectory that was going nowhere good. So yeah, that's
what happened? Like, so what was obviously you had the understanding that sheep hunting is not easy, but
right.
So what was the thing that like hit you or like, I got to take this seriously and I got to get my shit together before I go on this hunt?
Yeah. That moose hunt was no walk in the park. Walking through tundra with a heavy pack on and, the laboring through that, that was a wake up call for me that I wasn't going to be able to execute on a sheep hunt. So, knowing that should not have been that physical and it was that physical for me, that was definitely a wake up call.
Yeah. I think one of the things that we need to clarify real quick before we go any farther is that, John Mark just started training with me this year. And so all of the work that he did to get ready for that sheep hunt was prior to working with me. And so I just want to make sure that that's like, we're not bullshitting anybody. There's not any false pretense. Like before we met, he did all of that work. We've been working together for the better part of this year, but that whole thing, I wasn't involved with that. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that I brought that up.
Yeah, no. But to that point, the training that we're focusing on now is just so intentional toward that mountain hunting type of environment that, I feel more prepared now than I ever have to get on a mountain and chase sheep. And we've got 9 months to go and to get even more prepared.
For Dall sheep. Well, tell me the one thing that you said about, I don't know, it was when we were in the truck or where we were, you were saying about how I think it was your stone sheep. Was it a stone sheep or was it a Fannin?
Stone.
It was straight stone. Okay. You said about the pack out was brutal, like 18 hours or something like that.
Yeah. So, we were very fortunate to find a ram on day one. And the way that things worked out, I ended up hunting with another guy that I got to know very well named Johnny Cavazos, and he's done some incredible hunts all over the world. And he's, 10 years my senior, 15 years my senior. He beat my ass, physically on that hunt. And we ended up shooting 2 rams on a 3-2-1 type of deal. My ram on day one, my ram ended up pretty close to the top of the mountain that we could have gotten back the easy way. But his ram rolled all the way to the bottom of the other side that made it impossible for us to get back up. And so we had to get to my ram, pack him down to Johnny's ram, and then walk all the way around the mountains and back up over the pass to get to our horses. All that started at about 3:00 in the afternoon. And we didn't get back into camp until that next morning. And so while I say it was an 18-hour pack out, it was an 18-hour back to camp. Our actual pack out was probably a 12 to 14-hour deal where then we slept in a group of trees next to a fire through the night before we could get back to camp. But it was the most physically exhausting and demanding experience I've ever encountered, and taught me a lot about, the mental approach to that type of thing. And I'll say that, I'm really thankful for that experience because I've got a lot to draw back on and understand what hard really is. Now, physically, I think that probably still would have been a very difficult task. But I also think that had I prepared the way I'm preparing right now, it might have been a little more, it might have been an easier undertaking.
Well, I believe that wholeheartedly. But what was the hardest thing about it? What was the
it's carrying a lot of weight. You're not walking on even surfaces. It's slick. There's snow. There's rocks. And you're constantly climbing, and you're trying to keep your nutrition, where it needs to be, and trying to take in calories at the appropriate time, which I had no plan for that. And it just got to the point where we were so physically exhausted. The whole group was walking 20 yards stopping. And it was physically and mentally demanding.
So let's say let's go back to, you said it was about a 12 to 14 hour walk before you got to, is about what it was, right? Something like that. So let's go back to if you could, let's try this. Let's go back to hour 9, hour 10, let's say hour 8, somewhere in there. Where was your head? How are you getting yourself through it?
One foot in front of the other. That's all you can do. You can't think about, or I couldn't think about how much further we had to go or how long it was going to take. Hour 8, it was already dark. And so it's just looking at the mountain, knowing that, there's a couple passes left, but I've got to get 50 yards. And then I've got to get another 50 yards, and just biting that off into chunks. And then forcing your mind and your body to keep going, knowing that staying where we were was not an option.
Yeah.
So that,
So it's like segmenting is really, you kind of lean hard on that, breaking into I just got to get to this rock. I just got to get to that tree, and then we'll worry about whatever else comes after that.
It's really funny. I kind of do that in work and life as well.
Sure.
I do a lot of segmenting and say, I've got to be here at this point, or I'm off track.
Well, you're pretty ambitious. What did you say? Urgent kind of fella. So I guess this is probably a good point to actually do, since we got into kind of moving and getting some momentum, a little bit of an introduction about who you are, where you're from, what you do, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. My name's Mark Prewitt. I live in Dallas, Texas. Grew up hunting, whitetail hunting, all the fun stuff back in East Texas that we do, and just kind of started to get into Western and big game hunting in 2018, I believe. And so booked a bear hunt with Neil and Brownlee. It was either 2016 or 2018, and that was kind of my first tiptoe into something that wasn't really whitetail hunting or bird hunting. And so it's really just taken off, and I've found a love for hunting and travel and, physically demanding experiences. For work, I'm a CPA. We have a firm that specializes in small and medium-sized businesses, entrepreneurs, high net worth individuals. And so manage a team of about 20. And we work and do things for clients that we like to think others don't. So yeah.
You're a very service-oriented guy.
Yep. Service-oriented, love to please people, love to see people have good experiences.
Let me ask you a question. This is totally unrelated to that, but it hit me when you were saying about. So I'm asking because of my experience with this. So since you've gotten into like Western hunting and you've done 3 sheep hunts now, right? Killed a moose. I don't know how many bears you've killed, but I know I've seen a picture of you with your black bear, killed mule deer, all that kind of stuff. Has whitetail hunting lost its luster for you?
Western hunting?
No, has whitetail hunting lost its luster for you?
Man, it has.
That's what
I hate to say it.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah. It's, I get a lot of joy now in watching other people harvest whitetail. But yeah, it's not as.
What do you think it is?
Man, what do I think it is?
What do you think it's like? It's not as, it doesn't get you anymore.
I just think there's so much out there more to experience. New experiences, new people, new landscapes, new challenges. I'm bored pretty easily. And so, variety, right? It's been a lot of fun. We've done the Africa thing, and gosh, that's amazing. So
how many times have you gone to Africa again?
Been 3 times.
3 times. And you killed well, we'll go back to that, but you killed a nice leopard this summer.
Yeah, that was a ton of fun and a mental challenge, to say the least.
Well, I would say you should tell that story, because that was like 11 days until you killed it, right?
Yeah. Day 11 of 12. I pretty much accepted the fact that it wasn't going to happen, which you never want to go on a big hunt and have that happen, but you always have to be prepared for that outcome. And keep grinding, one foot in front of the other, going through the motions, being methodical, and ultimately luck landed on our side and we were able to get it done.
How are you feeling morning 11 before you went out and you sat in the blind again? Because I know you guys had seen them and stuff, but like, take me back to morning 11. Where was your head? How are you feeling?
So morning 11 of that hunt was, we had just gotten that cat to feed the day before. And so we had to reset cameras because the cameras didn't take pictures. And in that area, you have to be able to identify age class of cats that you're hunting, because they don't want you taking out a lesser age class cat, which is wonderful. That's how it should be. And so we went back in the next morning, hoping that these cameras took pictures. Everything in Africa, is just, it seems like things are, holding on by their teeth from a functioning standpoint.
What do you mean?
So, they don't have access to a lot of supplies there.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And so, they're using 10-year-old game cameras. So we bring stuff in as well, but they're running bait sites that, you can't bring enough cameras at times.
Sure.
And lions munch on a camera, hyenas will munch on a camera, and they lose cameras. And so not everything is always in tip-top working order or the latest technology. But so we didn't get cameras the first night or pictures the first night it fed, but the next night, that morning 11, we went back and got pictures. And so we got the pictures and went back into camp. That morning I was just hoping and, just please let us get some pictures, because it had been such a slow hunt to that point. And we got back to camp with pictures and sent them through for approval based on age quality, which, cat has to have dewlap. It has to have certain, build of the body and the head, and just some age indicators,
Sure.
jowls, visible. And so we got the approval. we actually got approval on 2 cats that same day, and we had not been seeing anything. And so we had to make a decision at lunchtime as to where we were going to sit, knowing we had 2 nights left to get this done. One of the cats, the PH had been hunting with several clients previous to us, and had not been able to get it done on that cat. And so we chose to hunt the other cat that he did not have a history with, because I didn't really want to get in a chess match with an educated leopard.
Oh, fair enough.
And also, I'll just throw out that the bait site that the leopard we ended up hunting that was my wife and her family's lucky number 14. So I was like, this is just meant to be.
Perfect.
We're gonna go hunt that bait site. And so it was a very emotional day when we went back to camp, and because I had already kind of relegated myself to the fact that I was going home with nothing. And so pretty emotional midday experience there. And, really for the rest of the day, I had, sweaty palms, kind of trembling hands, and just, every bit of adrenaline and emotion was running through my body that day. And so we went and built a blind to sit on that cat that evening. And right about dark, we heard the cat go up the tree. And so when he got up there, and by the time I was able to get behind the rifle, the cat had laid down on the branch to feed. And I had to stay behind the scope of the rifle for 20 minutes, watching this cat, waiting for him to stand up. With all those emotions still running, hard and heavy. And so when he finally stood up and we were able to take the shot and made a good shot, thankfully, relief, elation, just sorrow, remorse, right? Such a beautiful animal. Accomplishment, just lots of raw feelings associated with that. And man, it was an experience I'll never forget. And I don't know that I'll ever hunt another leopard, because I don't know that I ever want to taint that memory or those feelings that are associated with that.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll tell you, one of the things, I was going to go a different direction, but you said something I want to talk about. You, when we got back when we were going back to camp after you killed your ram in Utah, I asked you, a similar question. I was like, how you feeling? And, one of the things that I appreciated was the complexity of what you described, because I think that, I think it's important for us to experience all that, but at the same right, like to actually feel willing to convey it, And so you said something similar, like the remorse, the loss, but also like elation, happiness, and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, I like to hear that, because I mean, I guess selfishly, I feel the same way. I don't know if everybody always feels that way after they go through something like that, but that's the second time you said that, and I've been glad to hear it both times.
It's, I think we all go through stages as hunters. And I'm certainly in the stage where I get that remorse now, more so than I did. I think when you start, you have that in the gravity of taking something's life, and it's not something to be taken lightly.
Sure.
There's a purpose for it all, right? But and as people, we are naturally hunters.
Yeah.
And so it's in our blood, it's in our DNA. But those are living beings that we emotionally probably attach ourselves to in some capacity, as seeing it as how we would see another individual passing away, how we might feel about that situation. I think we attach those emotions, and rightfully so that the gravity of that situation isn't lost on us. But I think that just from what I have seen, with other hunters, is you get that remorse, and then you get into almost this bloodthirst of a lot of people. You see that, and I think what's really awesome is when you're able to get out of that stage of your hunting career, and it really becomes a lot more, magical and proper is not the right word. It's just, there's a lot more respect for the game and the quarry that you hunt. And I think that all hunters really go through that, and nobody really wants to talk about that. But I think it's a fact of life. And as we age, I think we take life a little more seriously. And so
I think that certainly has something to do with it. Like, yeah, you feel your own mortality a little bit more, and that allows you to connect to whatever it is that you're hunting and the life that you're taking. I think that certainly plays into it. But it's just I don't know. I don't know if it's just necessarily a maturity thing or what it might be. I mean, I don't know. I know the bloodlust phase. I know that phase. I know exactly what you're talking about. I think a lot of times it happens to us when we're younger. And I once you get out of it, I can, it was funny. Trey and I were talking. You had mentioned Trey from Neil and Brownlee. We were talking. He asked me, what, like the story of my favorite hunt or like something like that. And, and I told him the story about the time that my buddy Christian and I were in Montana and Christian killing his mule deer. And like, that's like one of my, it was one of my favorite hunts ever. Like, I didn't pull the trigger. It wasn't even my turn to shoot, And so to the point where you're like, man, I can tell you right now, I don't know that I would have enjoyed our hunt in Utah anymore if I was the guy that was supposed to pull the trigger. You know what I mean?
it's such a small piece of the hunt and the hunt experience itself.
Yeah.
It truly is. So yeah, I think that, just like the leopard hunt, if I'd gone home without one, would I have been disappointed? Absolutely.
Sure.
But would it have taken away from everything else that hunt was? No, because, got to go through and go through the whole process and saw 2 leopards prior to that in daylight, which was amazing. Just happened to see them. And, just everything about Africa and everything about any hunt, if you're not enjoying the process, then are you really doing it for the right reasons?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is it sounds like one of the things that you do well, and what I mean, not just sounds like that I've observed is you stay really present and you stay a part of the process the whole time, and it's not just like this. I think you hunt with some people, and there's kind of like this frenetic energy, and I think it might still be a little bit of the bloodlust running through them a little bit, or it could be something else. I don't know, but what I have noticed about you is that you stay present, you stay calm, and you stay engaged with what's going on rather than thinking too much about like, here's the exact outcome that I want. It has to happen this way. And I think that that's a really admirable thing.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it can be romanticized to, have those hard 18-hour pack outs or, day 10, 11 of 12 type of harvest scenario. And, it's something I learned in Africa. The PHSA is, you take what the bush provides.
Nah, I was hoping you were going to say that.
It rings true. And, yeah, it's just, it makes for a lot more pleasant hunting experience than if you're going in with a certain set of expectations.
Absolutely. Oh, well, but here's the thing, just to bring it full circle to the whitetail thing, and then we'll talk about a couple other things, but it's real dang tough. So it's like I seeing my buddies like spend a bunch of money to go to like Ohio or Kansas or something to kill these big whitetails. It's like, I just don't understand. Like, you could just go a little bit farther and they got elk and mule deer and stuff, man. You know what I mean? Or like, you hear the stories about, or even just going on, I don't know, anything, but it's just, you get to these points where you get to have these experiences and be in these different places, and sitting in a tree stand for a whitetail just doesn't do it anymore. Like, I did it a lot back east because I like to eat deer. So I would hunt deer for food more than anything else. But like, man, it's a tough sell for me anymore. Real tough sell.
I'm with you. I like to be active and, understand that I'm going to get cold on certain hunts, but that's just setting yourself up to be cold with no movement nonstop.
Absolutely, dude. I don't know. It's not that I want to devalue a critter. That's not at all what I'm saying. It's like, and I'm glad that there are plenty of whitetails, and I'm glad that people love to hunt them, but it's just like, man, just for me, it just doesn't do the same thing anymore,
Well, also I'll say that whitetail are really tough to hunt. There's not a lot of spot and stalk opportunities. It's very much an ambush game, and that is just not how I typically enjoy hunting.
Yeah, same.
at this point in my life.
Same. I'm with you. I mean, and that's the thing. It's good that you gave the qualifier of this point in my life, because I don't know what I'm going to say when I'm 60, but 38-year-old Todd is like, I'd rather do other stuff, So unless it's just like, man, I want something for the freezer, which is, I think the one drawback of moving out west is like back east, like I could kill as many deer as I wanted to and eat them. And out here, it's like I got one deer tag and I didn't get to fill that thing, So that's the one drawback, I guess.
You got to hunt something bigger so it lasts all year.
Well, that's why I've been saying, I need to kill an elk. I need to kill an elk next year. I need to kill I should be able to get a tag in Montana. So hopefully I kill an elk next year. But I wanted to do you want to talk about the Utah hunt?
Yeah, talk about whatever you want.
Let's talk about it. Where do you want to jump in with that? Where do you think we ought to start? Do you want to tell the whole gamut of the story, or whatever you want to do? Let's go wherever you want to go with it.
I'll just talk about how the Utah hunt came to be, and then how awesome it was.
Yeah, let's do that. Sounds great.
So, after I hunted after I hunted the stone sheep successfully, I was like, then I'm going to try to do all four.
Okay, cool.
And so that was 2022. So 2023, I was able to get in down in Sonora, Mexico to hunt a desert sheep, and was successful there. And then also had a hunt booked out in 2025, which is August of this coming year, with Arctic Red to do Dall sheep. But the one tag or the one ram that I knew was going to be extremely difficult to secure an opportunity for was Rocky Mountain Bighorn. So I started talking to Trey about it. We started talking about the economics associated with it and the draw odds. And, there are a lot of people that can, spend the money to go shoot or hunt a Rocky Mountain Bighorn sheep. And, that's awesome because those dollars go into conservation. And then there's other people who are lucky and are going to draw a tag, and that's great. But I've never been able to be a lucky guy. And so I'm afraid I'd be waiting with 3 of the 4, into perpetuity. And so one of the things that I just, asked when we started talking about the economics of the Rocky Mountain Bighorns and they go into Alberta and, how many times it typically takes people to hunt and successfully harvest an Alberta ram. It became very apparent to me that 4th ram was probably on the fringe of being likely at all for me to hunt. And so I started digging in, doing a ton of research. And what it led me to was finding these auction tags, which are, generally very, very expensive. And this was not an inexpensive venture, but we found an area that we wanted to hunt that was generally one of the cheapest tags in the country. And we locked in on it and were able to secure it at auction. And so wasn't something that I had really planned to do this year. It just kind of all unfolded and happened at a price point that we could tolerate. Mm. And so we booked it, and we're able to secure that back in either February or March of this year. And David Verosco, who helps me apply for points and tags and out west, put me in touch with Doyle Moss over at Mossback Outfitters, and they helped bid on the tag for me and ended up guiding us on this hunt. And, you and I really just kind of started working together at that point in time. And so you knew that I had this hunt coming up, and you helped prepare me for that and for the Africa stuff. And so as we got closer, that's why I reached out and said, hey, you want to go with us? And thankfully you said yes. And, knowing that like, hey, I've never hung out with Todd, and you can really get to know somebody in hunting camp.
Absolutely.
So that could be either a big awesome win for a future friendship, or it could be just a serious mistake that you've made that detracts from your hunt. And luckily it was the former, and we had a great time. Our entire camp meshed so well. You mentioned to me that was your first outfitted hunt.
First one ever. Yep. Never done it.
And you're spoiled at this.
Well, that's what dude, I've said that to everybody, is like, man, I don't even I'm scared to hire an outfitter now because it's like you have such a high bar to reach with the way that those.
Man, and I've been on a lot of odds that were not nearly as great as that one. And so I'm very thankful that it all worked out the way it did. And, Chris, Neil, Big Chair, they were awesome. We also had Trey in camp. Trey's been on all three of my sheep hunts at this point, and is scheduled to go with me in August on the 4th, God willing. Funny enough, you'll probably be in Northwest Territories hunting around with somebody else at that time.
That's right.
But yeah, no, I mean, we got to Utah and got in on November 1st. The season opened on November 1st. And so, we probably should have gotten there on October 31st so that we could be there ready to hunt that morning, because it is public land, and there are other sheep hunters there. And, the goal is always take the oldest round on the mountain. So there's going to be other eyes on there. And we ended up meeting people that had been on 10, 12 scouting trips, because they were local. But, that's why we had to hire an outfitting service, because we weren't local.
Yeah.
But got in on November 1st because Trey and I wanted to spend Halloween with our little boys, which was absolutely worth it. And it was an amazing time. And I'm glad we did that. But got in on first and hunted, and ended up harvesting on November 5th. Is that right?
That sounds right. That sounds right to me.
Was that election day?
Yeah.
It was the 5th or the 6th.
I think it was the 5th.
And so, yeah, we just let the process play out, and we saw what probably was they considered a shooter ram for that unit.
Morning one. Yeah. Well, I think that's an important thing to touch on real quick.
Yeah.
And we don't have to give up the exact unit or anything. I don't want to do that, but like, that unit is managed for 6-year-olds, right? That's what Chris told us, right? Yeah.
For hunting, it's more for hunting opportunity in Utah, and
right.
It's an area that it's a California bighorn, which is a subspecies of the Rocky Mountain bighorn, and it's generally not going to be a unit where you're going to find a 9 or a 10-year-old ram. I think in the last 10 years they've killed one 9.5-year-old ram out of there. Not to say they're not there, but it's a very rugged unit. That not a lot of people are really going to be able to get back in and look at all the things that they need to. And so, yeah, morning one, we saw what they thought was probably a 7.5-year-old ram, knowing that the average is probably going to be a 6.5-year-old ram to be harvested in that unit. And we opted to pass on it, and not to pursue him, and to look for an 8.5-year-old ram plus.
Which I think, real quick, if I can interject, is I think a testament to you and why you were hunting and what you were after and all of that, because that was a very stockable and a very killable ram. Like that, we could have got that done inside of an hour without a doubt. So
morning one, right? And been done, but it's a hunt, it's not a get, right? And so I'm proud of how we stayed behind glass and crawled up and picked apart canyons and went to places that no one else would, to find an old ram. So yeah, that was morning one, and we saw a pretty good number of sheep that day, didn't we?
Oh yeah,
morning one or day one.
It was 13 or 15, something like that. First day.
We saw good numbers of sheep.
Four rams, 4 being rams.
Yeah, and then that next day, I think we saw 1 ram.
Day two was a bit of a, what do I want to say? It wasn't like a grind, but it was like, man, we're not seeing shit, I think that just encompasses the whole day,
And you always look back and you're like, man, should I have gone after that ram?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
You always think about that, but I think it's important that, like, for me anyways, I don't bring those things up, because the quickest way to deflate a team of people that's there hunting hard is to, get frustrated and start second guessing decisions.
You weren't frustrated. I mean, listen, it was obvious. Like, if you ever at any point got frustrated, I didn't know it. That's for sure.
Yeah. But it was early. There's no frustration. And, we had time. I mean, we have 60 days to hunt that ram. We were there for 6 or 7 scheduled, but we would have done what it took to find the right ram and to harvest the right ram. And luckily, I've got a wonderful wife who's willing to support me in those ventures and those unclear schedules, and you know, people at the office who are supportive of these dreams and really understand what sheep hunting means to me, given that they saw me before I was hunting sheep. So yeah, day 2 is pretty slow. Day 3, we started to see sheep again, but not the right sheep. And it was day 4. Was it day 4 or 5?
Would have been 4. It was the 5th, so it would have been, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. It was day 5.
Okay.
Day 5.
Yeah. And so the 6th was our scheduled last hunting day.
Correct. Yeah.
I believe. Yeah. And so ended up that day, we separated and sent you up a canyon, and then sent Trey up into a different canyon. And then we went around the mountain and started glassing other areas. And you got into rams really quickly that morning.
As soon as I walked up it. Yeah.
Yeah. How many rams did you see in there that morning?
There were 2. The one was kind of like, he kind of Kaiser Soze'd me, you know what I mean? Like, he was there and then he was gone, and then we found that younger ram, but then I couldn't find the older one, and then I found the older one way later as they went up over a pass into another canyon. So
you were up in there looking for sheep, and then Trey ended up spotting a ram and a bunch of ewes, but he couldn't really judge and tell how good it was. So we came around and we were looking and we were trying to find where these rams had gone, where this ram had gone. And I mean, we're glassing for an hour or more. And just happened to look up to our left, and 800 yards, there's this ram with a bunch of ewes that had just been watching us out over a rock that we didn't see. They're quite difficult to pick up.
for sure. They're hard to find.
And so we needed to get closer, and we ended up corralling everybody back so we could all kind of be there together to make a judgment call. And wind was blowing about 20 that day. Those rams came down. We got a lot of cool video footage. Had a younger ram come in and try to get in on those ewes because they were in the middle of the rut, and the older ram ran him off. And super interesting, you know, how they populated those areas with different genetics, and the younger ram was just so much bigger bodied than that older ram. But that older ram was super dominant, and was really neat to watch that whole interaction. But ultimately we ended up, you know, deciding it was a ram we want to get closer to in age, and kind of went up a little draw and got to about 400 yards with a dead straight crosswind at 20. And just decided that it wasn't an ethical or a good shot to take, knowing that we were going to have, you know, approximately 2 feet of bullet drift. And so we backed back out of there and crawled up around the side of the mountain. It wasn't an overly physical climb, but it was more physical than what we would have done. And so we got in position, they aged, and, you know, this ram had a ton of character. He was broomed off on his left side, and had all those chips in his horns and was just super dominant. And there's just a lot of really, you know, awesome stuff about getting to watch him for a while. And they were having a hard time aging that ram. And they said, we know he's at least 7.5. He maybe 8.5. We can't tell.
Yeah.
And we made a decision as a group that he was an old dominant ram, and he was, you know, the other ram that came in was clearly a 6.5-year-old that he ran off, 6 or 7.5-year-old. And so we knew that he was at least 1 year better, maybe 2. And so we made the decision to harvest him, and was able to put a good shot on him at 275 yards. And he quickly expired, thankfully. And man, the emotion, It all floods you, and it's a team effort. And we went up to him, and man, 8.5-year-old ram,
Yeah.
likely the oldest ram that'll be killed in the unit. So we did what we went to do.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, I was actually like, as we got up the side of the hill there, I came up, I was in the caboose, so I couldn't even see most of what was happening. But one of the things that I did see was like when Chris was like, yeah, we should kill this one. And you were just locked in, man. You were locked in, like confident, calm. It was a pleasure to be there and to be a part of it, and to to even to see to see the elation on your in your response. And even as like we talked about, a little bit ago, how complex it all is. And, it's never just elation. There's other things that layer in on top of that. But I mean, I got a picture of you popping up to give Trey a hug, and I think it's important for us to mention that you and Trey are good buddies too. I don't think we really made that clear. You and Trey are good buddies, and just the elation on your face as you went to give Trey a hug after you made the shot. It was really cool.
Yeah, those are heavy moments, emotionally, just knowing that, you have to walk in and do what's right by that animal to ensure a clean, ethical kill. Because no one wants to watch an animal suffer.
Yeah. So what?
That's beyond difficult. As difficult it is for us, it's more difficult for them, right?
For sure.
And so it's our responsibility to execute and do well. And so thankfully, I've spent time and money and have attended that SAM school a couple times just to keep myself refreshed and sharp, and puts me in the best chance I can to succeed when it comes time to get behind that rifle.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was amazing. And, the photography that, you contributed to this, the memories, were there, and appreciate that.
Well, absolutely. I wasn't going to just be a bum, just tagging along. I don't, it's funny though, cause like I remember when you asked me, if I'd come along, I was like, yeah, man, I'll come, and I'll tell you what, I'll get some really great pictures from you. And one of the things that you said in camp was like, you're like, oh yeah, that sounds great, whatever. And then I actually started taking pictures for you. And you're like, oh, they're actually going to be good. And he's not just being nice, So
yeah, they turned out great. A lot of really just awesome moments that you typically wouldn't get. You always get the mountain photos because you're taking them on your iPhone, or you've got the the trophy photos, and maybe you get a few here and there, but just so much of that hunt was captured on film and still shot, and it's the pictures worth 1,000 words, right?
Yeah, man. It was a phenomenal thing. It was not only was it my first outfitted hunt, that was the first sheep hunt that I'd ever been on. So, and just, man, they're cool critters. There was this one moment that, Trey and I were kind of on a scouting trip the one day, and we were walking up this canyon, and we had just found two lion kills. We found a mule deer, and we found an elk. And we paused, and Trey was kind of running point, and he paused, and because he had seen sheep, and there was this ram. It's like, I don't remember what fucking insurance company it was or whatever, but like it was like Prudential, whatever. That like has the ram that like poses on the rock. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And he found it, and it was posed like that, and I caught it just as it was coming out of that pose. And like they do just such, man, it's such an overplayed word, but like sheep are majestic, man. Like they're really just a neat critter. And it was incredible because I had the honor of, so I could capture you walking up to it. I got to go up to it. I walked past it because I couldn't see, because Well, you said it. Well, you said it ran 25 yards, right? Because I remember you shot, and you're like, "Oh, it ran 25 yards." And I was like, "Oh, I expected it to go in the other direction." So I just was like, "Well, it's over here, so I'm gonna keep walking." Because I was in the back, I couldn't see. I had no idea where it was, and I walked past it, and you had to call me back. But I had the pleasure of getting there to look at this thing, even before anybody else did, and it was just, I was just blown away just being near it, and then to capture the pictures and the videos of you getting to walk up on it, was incredible. And I think one of the, you said about it, the left side being burned, but one of the coolest things about that left side being, like, he just did it, so it was like all I don't know, kind of splintered and raw, and it was a really neat thing to see.
So that's one of my favorite things about sheep is, and when I explain it to people like sheep, why it's, that sheep's whole life story
It's in
is
his home.
built into those horns that it
Yeah,
carries.
dude, they're
Age
so
range, good years, bad years, chips and horns, brooms. It's just that animal story is in that piece of horn that antler game don't have because they shed and regrow every year, of course.
for sure.
So I just think that is, I think that's one of the coolest things about them, uh, are those horns and the way that they tell that life story.
Oh, for sure. And getting to see them, like, obviously I've seen whitetails rut. I've seen, I've seen pronghorns rut. I've seen all of that, but watching them start to get a little ruddy. And the funniest thing is watching them walk out behind each other and smack each other in the nuts. Like, that shit's
Kick
hilarious.
each other in the nuts.
But like seeing them like kind of turn and like headbutt is, yeah, it's so cool to watch. And I got to see it. I think I got to see it twice. So that was really cool. I have to read something to you real quick. I've been meaning to read this to you. This is from Jack O'Connor, and maybe you've read this already. It's just a paragraph, and it's the heading is sheep sickness. And it says, there is no halfway. After his first exposure, a man is either a sheep hunter or he isn't. He either falls under the spell of sheep hunting in sheep country, or he won't be caught dead on another sheep mountain. And I feel as though you've caught the sickness,
It's a bug, and hopefully I'll be able to continue to do it long into life, and I'd love to draw some tags.
It's gonna be tough to do, buddy.
I know. We'll see how that happens.
You could always buy an unlimiteds tag and just take yourself a walk.
Yeah, we can do that.
I would do it. I mean, we're gonna look at trees for about a week is what we're gonna do, but I'd do it.
You and I cannot find sheep on our own.
No, we're gonna need somebody else to help us. But what I wanted, here's what I wanted to ask you. So you got, let's say, August, you go up to Arctic Red, you kill a 10-year-old ram, because that's all they'll kill. You have to kill a 10-year-old ram up there. Legal is 8, but they, as an outfit, only kill 10-year-old rams, which commendable.
Awesome.
You kill your doll. You got your grand slam.
Mm-hmm.
What are you gonna do? Are you gonna try to repeat some species? Is it time to go to another country? Because you're not gonna stop hunting sheep, and you're not gonna stop hunting mountains. So what would you do next?
The way I have it in my head right now, and plans are made to be rewritten.
Sure.
Will. But I think I would like to wait and see if I draw another North American sheep tag.
Okay.
Then I will hunt another sheep. I think if I drew a Rocky, then I would probably pay to go after a Fannin.
Okay.
And then if I ended up drawing a desert, then I would probably consider doing the second slam, just because of how special.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of up in the air. I would say right now, like, I don't have any intention of booking another sheep hunt, unless it was overseas. One of the awesome sheep that I think that I would love to hunt would be a snow sheep in Russia, but that's probably not the best place to.
That's a little spicy
right now.
Yeah.
The Argalis are cool. They're amazing. I do want to hunt Asia. I think that there's a lot of opportunity to hunt, the capra species and, your ibex and various things and get that mountain feel. Blue sheep, man, what an honor it would be to hunt one of those one day. Nepal, 14, 16,000 feet. That would be incredible. So I think that there's some things out there that I want to challenge myself on physically on in the future. And I think that that's kind of what keep me going and pushing and trying to stay in as good a shape as I can, which is, again, goes back to sheep hunting saved my life. And I guess hopefully it'll continue to do so.
Yeah. It's as if you need the next thing to keep you going, but you're not going to rush into deciding what that is. And I like that about you. That's a good thing.
So it's, there's a lot to do. The world has a lot of stuff to offer, that the United States, North America doesn't have. And, I want to experience that.
Absolutely. As well you should. I mean, we only get one chance to do this and our bodies only last so long. I mean, we'll make it last longer because we'll always train smarter than,
Yep.
But, you only get so much time. So I can appreciate that.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, we probably ought to wrap this up. I know you're on vacation with your family and I've eaten up 50 minutes of your time already. So, I appreciate you taking the time to tell these stories and let everybody hear them, buddy.
Todd, appreciate you as a trainer, as a friend. It's been awesome. If you guys haven't given Todd a peek, you should. What he's doing over there at HPPPM is awesome. And it's a way to make sure that you're a lot more comfortable in the mountain than you otherwise would.
I appreciate you saying that, buddy. All right. Talk to you soon, pal.
Talk later.